I mean, when you see you in the preview, are you like coming in good or?
I see myself fine. I don't know. I think you're looking at me through ethical lenses.
Well,
A little blurry.
smoking their own shit. How's that for his?
Speaking of which, I notice your lordship is smoking a cigar there, a mini cigar or a cigarette or something.
Yeah, I gotta make myself some more cigarettes. So this is just cheap ass because the way
Cherokee.
the way the tax structure is, somehow cigars are taxed at a different rate than cigarettes. So basically all they do is it's like a cigarette that they just put in brown paper and they call it this little cigar and they squeak it in a cigar roll. So you could get these things for like $9 a carton, where it's like, if I actually got like, my beautiful Pall Malls that I enjoy so much, they'd be like, shit, around here, it's over $100 a carton now.
So they truly are cigarettes, right? They're like little cigars. I heard a guy say that
with a pipe, also just something to do. It's just
yeah, my dad smoked.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's like I go all day. I went all day. This is my first one of the day. I get on this thing here. Yeah. It's just like,
But the day started a half an hour ago, though, for you. 3:30 in the afternoon.
I don't know. Your clock says it's only 10 after 10.
10 after 10. Sounds good. Let's back it up.
The time zone between.
A lot of people would say that like the cigars and the pipes and stuff, nicotine is an addiction, right? And it makes you think about back in the day when you would, when you first meddled around with booze, whatever else, other kind of drugs you could get your hands on back in the day, which I guess was pot, basically, very light pot. You remember having your first beer, your first drink?
I think telling you that you really would not have liked me. It's a good thing you didn't know me in high school because I was just such the pathetic little nerd. I mean, I wasn't trying to think. My first beer.
When was the first time you
start drinking? I really didn't start drinking until I got into college. I didn't you just don't show how attitudes have changed. I remember being home from college once, and I was like a little tipsy, and I remember getting pulled over by a cop. And I'm thinking, oh shit, it's all done now. Yeah, and it was basically like the cop followed me home to make sure I got home okay.
Wow, that was a nice thing.
Well, that was also like 1984, 85. Yeah.
Yeah, 1984, right. Yeah, exactly. It was just like the county police.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, and so I guess it's all in how things are, you talk about hey, chemical dependence, but this is a socially acceptable chemical dependence.
Absolutely.
This used to be.
If I don't have
what?
If I don't have my my coffee by I'm going to say 11:30 in the morning,
blinding hit.
I'm starting to get the headaches and the shakes. It's like I must have I'm crawling to a Starbucks. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous, but I'm not going to give it up. It is the one addiction I kind of allow myself.
Well, you're asking that thing too. It's a harmless vice. It's I know our viewers probably, they see me on here with this shit, and it's they probably think I'm some kind of chain smoking or whatever. But I mean, you see me throughout the day, and it's I really don't smoke that much.
No, it's mostly the crack pipe. But
I used to be, right. I used to be a crack addict. Well, that's the thing. It's I guess it's all in how it's you look at now with all the dispense. Oh, New York State. Did your state legalize yet?
Yes, the land of Yore has legalized.
Yeah, because it's over here in Texarkana or wherever I live, it's it's been illegal, and you get all the because it's it gives me this thing about it's cigarettes screw up your health too, but it's you did. And I'm well, the difference is I can get behind the wheel and I can chain smoke a pack of Chesterfields and I'll still be fine to drive. It's this guy's smoking a joint behind the wheel. It's kind of well, with the legalization comes a certain amount of responsibility. It's hey, drinking is legal, but
You can go get a
you
6-pack.
get
Yeah,
caught
right.
for the snootful, you're going to pay a certain, it's,
Yeah. There's consequences.
yeah. And it's like, yeah, basically anything. Yeah. Basically anything's addictive, whether it's, I mean,
Even
have you-
habit, right?
Yeah, that's basically more of a habit or more of a, but I mean, it's like, it's going to sound strange, but it's like, with everything that's been going on in my life, with the stress and everything to go to, to help me sleep at night, I started like, popping a couple of Benadryls before I go to bed. And now it's like, I can't go to sleep unless I got like 2 or 3 Benadryls in me.
Wow, yeah. It does happen quick, right? You got to be careful and monitor. Remember when in the 80s, when they were pushing, all the doctors would give you opioids? Hey, my kid broke his leg doing soccer. Here you go. You know what I mean? Like, 6 months later, he's robbing the
Exactly.
the school or whatever it is,
Yeah, it's like my kid threw his arm out pitching a little league doubleheader. Oh, here's some Percocet. Yeah.
Back then, before the information was centralized, he'd definitely get people coming in, like making the rounds, like, yeah, I got back pain, I need some Percocet. You knew like 10 minutes earlier he was down the street at the other doctor, doing the same routine. So,
but that's the other thing too, is it's like, not to go, and I'll leave this up to you whether you want to edit it or not. Not to get too personal, but addiction runs in my family. My mom had a drinking problem. Her father had a drinking problem. My grandmother was like, a borderline chain smoker. My father's father was a borderline chain. It's just the kind of thing where it's like, I never really ventured into the realm of drugs because if it's encoded in my genes, I don't want to like tempt fate.
Why tempt fate? That makes a lot of sense. Would you say that's why you are like, you err on the other side? You really you don't mess around with anything?
I mean, that's like, it's like my biggest, if I had to name vices, it's like, okay, so I smoke occasionally. Well, I'm sure it's like my soon-to-be ex will give you a list a mile long of my vices, but on the whole, it's like, it's just, I have vices, but it's like, again, like just
they all involve leather, though, right?
No, it's just harmful. It's just, it's just like all like, just harmless kind of whatever. It's not like maybe the whole. I tried.
You like to do what you like to do.
Yeah, I tried pot once when I was in college. I did not like it. I don't know. It just didn't. That goes back to what we were talking about off camera earlier. Yeah, I mean, I would drink. It's like back in college, I think I might have even been like a borderline alcoholic. It would be like but there was one year where I had like the dream.
How did it start though? You're jumping ahead here. How did it, when did old Rufus, did the guy across the way on the bed, like open a bottle of vodka and say, here, punk, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, how did we get there?
I don't know. There was an older guy up the hall who was, he was 21 or whatever. So he was the bartender at the bar on campus. I don't even know if campuses are allowed to have bars on them anymore.
Yeah, that was sad to see them close down after the Vietnam War. And they were like, fuck it, now it's 21 again. We're taking your rights away again.
But, so it's like, I'd go and you wouldn't proof me. But it started off like, White Russians, very tasty. I still love that.
God, how can you not like a White Russian? Like, how can you? It's like dessert. Yeah, a couple of those. You're feeling good. You're feeling bloated.
Yeah, it's like I remember
heavy, very heavy drink.
Oh yeah, I remember one time. Well, it's like I wasn't even feeling them. I was just like sitting there, just at the end of the bar, minding my own business. It was almost like Cheers. I was just a fixture at the end of the bar, and it's like, the waitresses just kind of like worked around me.
Somehow I'm seeing a 1940s hat in this story.
And so I just sit there smoking and drinking, whatever. And it was like, the White Russians, screwdrivers, they had a blender. So it's like daiquiris. That was the other great one. Pina coladas, all that kind of stuff. And then somehow that just turned into like, rye and ginger. And then I don't even really know how it progressed, how it eventually reached a point where, I mean, I was just sitting there with like, the classic college red Solo cup, just full of vodka with some ice cubes in it.
You cut out the sweet stuff altogether at some point, right?
If I had to try to relive like a weekend at college, I would probably put myself in the hospital. I'd start like, puking up stomach lining or something.
So after graduate school, Shanti, my wife, and I, we saved up a lot of money and we moved into like 93rd Street in Manhattan on the 37th floor. It was living the dream. We spent every penny we had and then some doing this little fun thing. But hey, at least we did it. Anyway, the neighborhood, we start coming home from work, it's late, we're working as auditors and coming home and there's this little bar on the corner and they had great wings and they were free. So, you're coming home late, you grab a few wings, a couple of frosty, cold margaritas from the Swizzly machine, And at some point, the guy started buying back drinks for us and saying, hey, you guys, you're our regulars. And as soon as I heard that word, like, you're our regular, I was like, that was the last time I went to the bar. I was like, I can't become like a bar fly at age 25 or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, you know me, because we talk about like, the Sunday move or whatever. And it's like, somehow it's like, I talk about becoming a regular, but the coffee shop across the street. It's like, walk in, give me the usual, it's like, coffee light and sweetener, chocolate donut.
Yeah, right, exactly. Which will kill you just as quickly as the other stuff, but.
Well, no. So anyway, tried pot in college, and when I drink, I just I get fun. I'm not like one of those dark drunks. I'm like just one of those like
away from me.
Yeah, I'm just when I used to get drunk, it would either be there'd be two different me's. There would be the almost like there's something from a Laurel and Hardy movie, just like the giddy, annoying, everything's funny me, Or, I would sometimes, because I used to work at the bank and I'd get home at, late, and I'd still have like my suit and tie on. I'm walking into the dorm and I'm getting off the elevator and the guys like push me back in and it's like, we're going drinking. I'm like, So I'd be sitting there like, the college bar in my suit and tie, with the French cuffs and everything, and it's like, I'm like slowly feeling myself getting plastered. And it's just like, all right, well, let's just see if I could make it through this without any like, real bruises to use.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the problem. The more you drink, the less you have a resistance, right? Like I love old fashions, right? What's better? A little bourbon, a little water, sugar, orange around there. Perfect. And after one, you're feeling really good. After two, you're feeling great. But man, oh man, you little voice in your head better be kicking off and saying, that's two, time to stop. Because by 3, 4, you're out of your mind,
Yeah.
It's a tough quarter to draw.
The one who was like that. I don't know if I told the story on this or if I just told it to you in private or whatever. Shirley was like that, my soon-to-be ex-wife. You'd get like that. We'd be at a wedding or something. You get like, 2 or 3 drinks in her. She loosens up. She gets really fun. You're slow dancing and she's kind of rubbing against you. But then it's like, you would get like 1/2 of one shot too many into her. And then she would turn into the biggest fucking pain in the air. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. It was like,
that whole world is.
It was like, what's that? With the atomic bomb, critical mass, just that one, I don't know, too many. And
boom.
Yeah, there was one time where it was like, she was just on the verge. And I forgot what I said, or what she said and I was just like, I made some kind of, you're probably going to edit it out. I made some kind of crack about like, anal when we got home, which I've never done, but that's fun. And she said something like, sounds interesting. Dude, I couldn't get home from that wedding fast enough. It's like, yeah, I'm like going down like, the parkway. I'm doing like 75 on the parkway, which is like, semi-insane. I'm like lying down 495. I'm like pushing 90 to get home, It's like, get home, take the dogs out. I think I'm going to come back in. And it's like, half the time and she's like passed out in the bed. I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah, exactly. I've been there on the other side of that.
So I was like, I was saying to like one of my friends, he's like, well, what'd you do? I'm like, I left her in there. It's like, what? You just like, well, I gave her a blanket. I gave her a towel in case she got cold. She could.
Yeah, time for a film noir movie.
Yeah, but so anyway, we're like so far off base now.
So talking about drugs, the difference between then and now, and pot. So pot, I'm cool with pot. I mean, it's, between the two of them, like I used to be able to drink when I was younger. Now, not at all, man. It's like those days are done. A couple of them and my head's hurting halfway through. And I'm like, they do have this stuff on the market that's like this probiotic that you can take that breaks down the enzymes that gives you the hangover. I mean, like I do that once in a while, and it's nice because it really does work and you wake up like not feeling it at all. Yeah. But boy, if I don't have that and I go over to my friend's house and, have a couple of drinky poos, especially if it's like cheap whiskey or something.
My record,
I am
my record for consumption, I forgot where it was. I was out and I might've been at a bar on campus. That was like the story I was stuck talking about before I went off track. So that was my introduction to White Russians. I'm just sitting there belting these things back, not feeling it. And like, my friend's like, dude, you better like slow down. It's like, this is number 10. And I'm just like, cause they were going down. It was like, like I'm drinking you. I mean, they were so, and then they're like, oh God, well, I got to take a pill. I get up to take a, it's like, whoa.
Wow.
And I was saying to you the other night, it's like, again, there was some stress with the divorce and all this. I figure, well, whatever. Maybe I'll just like treat myself and make myself a White Russian or a pseudo White Russian. Our viewers out there, Brulu and Bailey's. Nice.
Yes. A White Russian is what? It's vodka, it's half and half, and Kahlua.
Yeah, right. Vodka, Kahlua, whatever. But so this was like my mock White Russian. And again, it's like,
did you ever do the thing where like you're so drunk you come back to the dorm room or whatever, and their bed is spinning, so you take your foot and you put it on the side of the tip of the brake? That's when you know you've had too many. You better get the puke bucket.
I've only drank to the point of memory loss once. Then when I woke up, I was married. Now, because where I went to college, there was the gates going out, and then across the street there was a Dunkin' Donuts. We woke up one morning, hungover like you wouldn't believe, and still have my clothes on or whatever. It's like still have my tie on with the knot down to the, just like complete like Oscar Madison 1940s hungover drunk scene. I had grass stains on my knees and elbows. No idea. And remember the Dunkin' Donuts? There was like, they used to call them like with the munchkins. They had the big bunch basket, which was like 100 of these things. There were 5 empty boxes of these. That's like 500 fucking munchkins.
Wow, that's a lot
of
munchies.
Not one in sight. I have no idea. Right. I have no memory of being in Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know where they came from. All I know is that was Friday night, Sunday, Sunday morning. We're going to brunch at the cafeteria. And I noticed some girls like nudging each other, kind of pointing like our way. Like those are the guys I was telling you. Yeah.
So you can imagine, right? Could I see the security tape, please?
But, going back to the whole pot thing again, that's how sheltered, I guess it was. I wouldn't even know where to begin looking for the stuff back in the day. I mean, now it's all I got to do is just drive up the street and there's like dispensary or whatever. But, back then it was like, we'd had to go, you practically had to go into wine dance to get it, to go to the.
You just talked to Frank. You just talked to Frank Rosado. Did you know him? That was junior high school. I guess by then,
Would not know.
I better school.
No, I didn't even like. But the one time I smoked it, it just was not for me. It was granted, it was a mellowing effect was there, but it was just like it was too strange to me because it was more like I was looking at myself as an outside observer than actually experience. If that makes any sense. Where it's like, when you go drinking, it's like, you get a little dizzy and fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, both have their purposes. And, it does help you sleep pot. And I use it when I meditate and, stuff like that. It enhances music and certainly sex and things like that. So I think each has its sort of place in your life. You can't let anything grab you and control you. But as far as their uses, I've never woken up from smoking pot and been like, oh, my freaking head. Holy, what the? I'm never doing that again,
The drug I found that really helped with my sex life, chloroform. No.
Yes.
But, honey, does this smell like chloroform to you?
Back in the... what you can make that one up, or did you get that one from somewhere?
Not to sound like any kind of sort of like evangelist or a whack-a job. But the other thing that just kind of bugs me about the whole legalization aspect, it's more like, basically just a cash grab by the state. Yeah, that's, I think, what really bought. It's the kind of thing where it's like, all we've been hearing around here for the past 80 years was, it's almost like, it's like gambling. It's immoral. It's illegal. It leads to
exactly.
Degradation.
Well, that tells me it's the state lies.
Family, and unless we have our hands in to tell.
Well, it was like gambling, right? That was the same story you heard for that. They moralized it, and then they were like, you know what? If we can make a buck.
Yeah, and then meanwhile, it's like the New York State Lottery. It's like, all of them. It was originally designed to all of the money that generated was supposed to go to education. And it's like, so we are 50 years in, billions of dollars a year. And it's like the school districts are still falling apart. It's like,
I don't know. In your state, the tuition for college is pretty good. Like my state, you got to pay double, almost triple what your state university system costs.
Well, that's why we're trying to get this back on course here.
I find that, I think the reason that they made pot illegal in the first place was because black jazz singers were smoking it, and if they were doing it, my kid can't do it. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Oh boy, yeah, can't have them getting out of control. Have them under our thumb.
I mean, they'll be beatniks. You know what I mean? Which was a total media creation of the beat poets and
those guys at the go to.
Well, that's what they became in popular culture, right? It was basically the guys who would go sit down in the kettle of fish in the East Village and write novels about the American experience.
They said you even know the names of the places, say?
Mm-hmm. Went there. What are you kidding? I went to NYU, and that was we would go there every Thursday and get pictures of beer.
Your beret and turtleneck?
No, but it was cool. They had all pictures on the wall of all these impresarios and through the years that, you don't know who they are now or whatever. But I imagine that maybe someday even AWOL could get on that wall.
Yeah, that ship sailed.
I wasn't smoking enough pot.
No, I think at this juncture in our life, it's like the next recognition is basically our obituary.
Yeah, I would say so. That's the next certificate. Yeah, right. Next official doc.
Coming soon to a parlor near you.
So then I'm taking it you never did mushrooms.
Nope. I never did shrooms, never did any kind of pill. This is how pathetic I really am. I mean, even, with all my stress and anxiety and all that crap, it's like, my doctor gave me a prescription for Xanax. I'm still working. I think that the bottle, this is just in case, whatever. And there's the original one was for 30 pills. I think there's still 25 left. Yeah, and the prescription was back when this whole thing with the divorce first started. So that was already 6 months ago, 8 months ago? Yeah. I'm just one of those people where it's I'm afraid to...
You have that fear of addiction from your family.
Right. It's because, even when I dislocated, my pinky, I'm a horrible, look at that, people. I'm a horribly disfigured man. That's as much as I can string. It's like they're giving me like
Is it?
painkillers, and I'm afraid to take the painkillers.
Yeah, no, I am very judicious with that stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, no thanks. I'm not going down that path.
Get her own life, man.
Yeah, man. I did it twice in my life. And the first time was camping with a friend that you know, I think, and his brothers up in the hills right next to Sydney, New York. All right, so I'm up there in Sydney, New York, next to, in the rolling hills of the New York heartland.
Where?
And one of these guys had shrooms. So he pulls it out. We're all camping, right? We're all sleeping out under the stars. It was like a spiritual type of thing. It was like the stars were gleaming and like it looked like I could pick them up, and this beautiful communal experience. We're all camping in the hills. And then I brought some home to Shanti. And, we were living in New York in an apartment, a tiny little box apartment down near Wall Street at the time on Hanover Square. And I said, well, you got to try this. It's like, it's the most amazing thing. You're going to like blow your mind. It's going to be awesome. So, we do it in our little apartment, and it was like we were trapped in our own mind, the boxy apartment. It was a very different experience. Like we're trying to make chocolate milk, and it's like a mental exercise. I'm like, I'm not doing that again. Like, I guess a lot of it is context too.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I was going to say.
You don't want to be doing something where you're stressed out,
It's like, again, like me with smoking, it's not so much not addicted. It's not a dependence or whatever. I think it's more a mental, it's not like a chemical dependence. It's just more like when we're doing this kind of stuff, okay, it just kind of like brings me back to my happy place. Like when I was like in high school, before you hang around in the diner bullshitting, and it's just it's not really so much a
it's a social thing. It's a habit. Yeah, when you're going out, much like people having a drink when they go out and meet friends or whatever. I remember a psychology teacher saying that as much as it is the addiction stuff, it's like the habit stuff. It's like unwrapping that paper on the top and packing it, and then you pull one out and you play with it with your fingers or whatever the fuck it is. Like
because they didn't have filter. You had to take it. You had to
Camels,
pack it a little bit, and knock off the tobacco. Oh, I love those things.
Yeah.
If they can't, I love Chesterfield. Too bad they don't make them anymore.
At least the pipe tobacco smelled like sweet and nice and textured. That horrible tobacco from a cigarette is just the most nasty thing to me.
Cigars are made from like these #1 premium leaves. And it's like I was going to a parking lot once, and I thought I stepped in some dog shit or something because something there's some guy sitting in his Lexus, a little bit of, a bit of heaven. He's got like it, and the cigar was actually green. I never saw a green cigar, and it was just like, it just smelled.
That must have been pine.
And then it's like, cigarettes, like if I'm sitting at like a traffic light and the guy next to me smoking or whatever, and you get that little, I'm like, but it's like if you have like a whole room full, I can't deal with it. Pipe tobacco is actually the lowest grade tobacco there. It's just made from like the stems and the stalks and like everything that's left over from when they make like cigars and cigarettes. That smells great.
I guess that's why they flavor it, right? They throw a level of, whatever. I don't even know what they flavor that stuff with, but, I remember there being different.
See.
Do you have Prince Albert in a can?
Amaretto, which is super valued. I'll give you an idea.
Super value.
I'll give you an idea of the quality you're dealing with here. Buttered rum.
Bam! Buttered rum, man. That's very, it's like you're a pirate. Arr, matey.
Pirate, that's right.
Yeah,
I am a pirate. That's right. I'm being hunted by who.
Yes, by
somewhere at my treasure that I'm hiding in probably heart.
You're sitting on a big... Right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I never really got into that like kind of weird kind of stuff. I can't really go into it because I don't know who's going to be watching because they talk about how the gig thing can be a gateway.
Yeah, to anything. You know what I mean? Maybe you're horny for trees and one night. I saw this video of this guy. He goes out in a rubber suit and he goes around in mud piles. This is in England. They were calling him the Gimp because the whole rubber suit like covers his whole face and stuff. You can Google this.
You watch it. I don't even. Can we really still be friends?
No, but like he would appear. Imagine you're living in a little town in England somewhere, and you hear like somebody saw a Gimp as they were driving home, going around in a mud. Like you'd be like, yeah, you're crazy,
just sitting
man.
right there.
Right, the third
sitting
time,
there
the
working
fourth time.
late at night in my. Yeah, I'm sitting there like just working in like my new store in Sydney, New York. I think I found like my perfect small town. And I'm like there dressing the front window. And all of a sudden, it's like you hear like, when you see some guy walk by in a scuba suit covered with mud, it'd be like,
yeah. But they caught him eventually. Boy. The cops caught him. And he said, yeah, it's a habit. It's something I like to do. You know what I mean? So I guess to each his own, want to go Gimp, get a license, dude.
I don't know. Well, people addicted to like, you see some of these, like when I say you see some of these, I'm not talking about you and me personally watch this stuff.
Whatever your fetish is, whatever your, wacky, thing was from growing up, there's a movie out there on the interweb for you.
It's what you've heard me say that with like, Charlie. It's like, hey, I might not have been the perfect type, but she could have done a hell of a lot. It's like, you'd think it's like the only like real kind of fetish I have was like lingerie. It's like, I love lingerie, the garter belts and all that kind of, not to wear like on women, but it's like,
on women.
Mm-hmm. That's what I said. Lingerie
yes, on women.
Yeah, when I say I have a lingerie fetish, I don't mean I dress myself up. I'm debating.
It's because you look so beautiful at this age.
Oh God, look at me! Can you imagine me? Oh, Jesus Christ! But it's kind of thing where it's like, sometimes you treat me like I'm some kind of like, just, mutant. And I'm like, I am such a lightweight in the perversion department.
Yes, that's right. As my web browser discloses.
What?
As my web browser tells, it's pretty light stuff.
Yeah, so anyway, trying to steer this thing back on course, how, is drinking considered a drug now? Is alcohol considered a drug or alcohol?
I think so. Of course it is. Well, why would that be exempt? I mean, I can't imagine any reason because preferred by the old white man? I mean, what's the logic there?
Blacks drink too. I've watched Sanford and Son. I know Thunderbird.
Yeah, I know the real deal.
I know about Thunderbird and Ripple. But that's the kind of thing that like, my brother and I got into a thing about that. Well, it wasn't really an argument, it was just more a difference of opinion where, he was talking about like, pot, because at one point in time he was a pothead. And, he was going on about how, it's just like, it's no different than like, the way grandpa used to have a beer when he got home from work. They were like, I don't know. And somehow it just, it's.
I honestly do not see a difference. I got to go with your brother on that. What's the worst that's going to happen? He's going to take a nap instead of beating his wife and kids.
Well, yeah, I guess it's like, the beer satisfies some kind of thirst regimen. I mean, if it's like, hot out.
Well, that aside, you're still addicted.
Driving a fucking milk truck all day. I mean, about to get thirsty. I think too. I just can't see, but
these are all perceptions. I mean, when it comes down to it, when the effects of it are, like you said, it kind of makes you feel like you're a little bit askew, a little outside of yourself, but it's it wears off after 25 minutes or whatever it is. And you're hungry and horny and, want to watch a good movie.
Horny, and then you realize you're alone in the house and you're hungry and horny and there's no one to.
Well, there's
no one to make you.
That's when that good movie. That's when that good movie becomes,
That's when I got to get online, and that's when I got to jump on YouTube and find myself like an old Mary Pickford movie. There we go, got her in there.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So everything in moderation, right?
Well, yes, I think too. I know it's like we're really going overtime, and God knows how much of this is going to really make it, but. Yeah, they say, everything's fine in moderation, which I believe. It's like, again, smoking. I think if like, I keep it down to like, maybe, I might have like, a cigarette at night on the front porch when I'm walking the dog or something, just unwind or whatever. But, in most cases, do you remember that guy, Graham Kerr? He was like the galloping gourmet, and he was always cooking a light and everything after he had his big bike.
Yeah,
and he was the one who said it. It was like, all Americans say, everything's good in moderation. But the problem is, the average American's idea of moderation is still almost twice as much as you should be having in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not good stuff. I mean, there was this, you're talking of cooking shows. Do you remember the guy, Jamie Oliver? He tried to like come in and healthy up high schools in the heartland in America.
Sure, used to
they almost ran him out of town on a rail. Yeah. It's like they were not going to give up those chicken nuggets, no matter what. Like, pry those chicken nuggets from my cold, dead hand.
Yeah, early on.
You know, there's no way they're not giving them up. No. And that's like the feet, the beaks, the whatever. They talk about using the scraps of the meat, man. That's like the very worst part of the chicken.
Yep. It's like pipe tobacco, but they put all kinds of other shit in there.
Yes, it's for pipe tobacco.
You ever see them making that stuff? It's disgusting. It's like these big blenders. There's this meat clot. And it's there's this little like faucet on the end that squirt.
And what are they in the end? They're fucking tasteless discs that, you know, you put sauce on. So just eat the sauce directly. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You don't taste anything. Cardboard chips.
Makes you proud to be an American.
You know what I recently gave up? Bacon. Do you eat bacon?
Yes and no. It's funny because Johan was having, he's like at that kind of thing now where it's like, would you rather? That's like his big, and it was like, would you rather like, never have bacon again? Or would you rather, I forgot what the other one was. And I was like, get rid of the bacon. I said,
blow an artery.
When I eat it, I enjoy it, but it's not like, honestly, I don't think I've had bacon in like the past 3 or 4 months. I mean, it's just, again,
I used to eat it on
I'm
a regular
alone
basis.
now. So, I mean, it's like, who the hell am I going to make bacon for? Well, me.
I used to eat it quite a lot with I would associate it with Sunday morning breakfast, right? So I eat it like once a week or whatever it is. And like, I'm just at that age where it doesn't make sense to be putting that shit in my veins, which are going to pop, and also just, it's gross. Well, your pigs eat their own fecal matter and God knows what else is in front of them. And I'm like, I'm eating this, you know what I mean? That can't be
what? They fucking spraying their rat stuff. It's like, eat French fries and, it's like they don't even peel potatoes anymore and they make fries and, that's direct contact with manure. But
I'll tell you,
it's like my
fries are the best.
Oh, yeah.
McDonald's fries are the best.
Especially,
they're still kick-ass in that territory.
Fries, glory.
Oh, my God. Fries, when they're soft.
That's the thing, is... you look at the way our grandparents used to eat, and look, I'm not saying this is healthy shit, but I mean, you got to factor in the fact that, like, they all smoked like chimneys and drank like fish. So that had something to do with it, too.
But they did physical labor.
Right.
They did physical work, though, too.
I mean, you look at, like, my grandmother, it's like, she'd be making Sunday breakfast. She's frying up the bacon. She takes the bacon out, and then she just cracks the eggs, and she's frying the eggs in the bacon grease. And again, it's like, I mean, she lived to be like 84, she's 12 but it's like, and I think it's, I think it has a little bit more to do with like just the stress too. I think our grandparents were better able to deal with stress.
It's a different kind of stress. It wasn't like sit there in your chair and just deal with mental stress from your boss. It was like,
I don't know if it I don't know if it's just because you didn't have like the what I'm looking for, like the social media and just like the news in general. But it just seems like back in our grandparents' generation, you never heard of guys having heart attacks in their 30s.
I don't know. It's like saying that you never heard of them having acne. I'm sure they did, but like nobody noted it.
Honestly, you go back. It's funny you mentioned that because I remember looking through my mother's high school yearbook once, and it was just funny because you're looking at I'm looking at the people, and really wasn't that much acne back then. I mean, I know it's like the yearbook pictures. I don't know if they were airbrushed and touched up or what, but I think again, even with like the cancers and everything, how much of that has to do with all the crap we're putting in food and everything today.
So I don't know if you've ever read Charles Bukowski, but he wrote a autobiographical novel about when he was
always trying to get me hooked on him.
He's a very enjoyable, good, like put it in the bathroom on the top of the toilet while you're there, kind of thing. Couple of stories. Anyway, acne. Yes, that's it. So anyway, he writes about his youth and growing up, and one of the things, he had like horrible acne on his face, on his back, on his, like they called it, vulgaris, acne vulgaris, and it was just all over his body. Like he went into the hospital to get it worked on, and like the guy looked and he said, "Hold on a minute," and he called all the other doctors and. Like they hadn't seen
it's
this
like
one
with
before.
Seinfeld, it's like when the doctor's like, "Oh wow, that's interesting," and it's like,
and he describes these giant like zap needles where they zapped him off his back and shit. Right? Oh, a horror. Anyway,
so what was the point? Well, you're just like disputing the acting.
The point was disputing the acting. Well, we were saying how we don't know really if there are, it's not certain things like they happen, but they just didn't get documented in any form,
Well, yeah. Going back to what you were talking about with like the prescriptions and everything. Again, I don't know if it's going to start a whole nother topic of gun control. But yeah, you look back, people used to be able to order handguns through the fucking Sears catalog.
I believe that. Absolutely.
But yet,
Frontier or whatever.
At the same level of like just mad dog, like, school shootings and everything that you do now. So it's like, maybe it's something more to it.
I agree. There's a lot of angst now and,
it's
and all
like
this
how many,
stuff,
like, even
especially in America.
We're not even that old, but how many of our schoolmates in like elementary school, granted, there was some hyperactive, and I'm sure if we went off camera and talked about it and like mentioned names, we'd know exactly who. But how many kids are like, on Ritalin and all this other shit, like back when, lithium, whatever the hell it is, like, when we were kids, it's kind of thing, right? Like, man, nothing a swift kick in the ass wouldn't fix.
Kind of. I think a lot of conditions too are sort of overlooked or undiagnosed or misdiagnosed.
ADHD or whatever it is. Back when we were kids, it was just called like being a daydreamer or something. Yeah, I'm sure it's like if that existed like it does now when we were kids, I would have probably been like diagnosed with it because I was always daydreaming and I was always in I still am in my own little world somewhere. And
well, the education system doesn't really recognize the creative spirit, right? They only recognize the STEM side of things, and so that's natural. Yeah, my cousin was like that too. And anyway, I think we're getting way off topic here. Why do you love drugs? Why you do drugs?
Why do I love and do drugs?
Why?
I don't love and do drugs. I pop my Benadryl so I could like fall asleep. If cigarettes count as drugs and whatever, I do have my little quirks and my little vices. I won't call them addictions because an addiction just sounds too... I think there's a difference between... I know we're killing more time than we need. I actually think there's a difference between a vice and an addiction. I'll admit coffee is an addiction with me, just like you said. When I had that operation a couple months ago, that was the worst part. It's like I woke up in recovery and it's like, I'm like, give me coffee, because I was getting like the splitting headache or whatever. But, smoking with me, it's not an addiction. It's a vice. I could go the rest of the week without smoking, unless we do another one of these, then I'll have a couple cigarettes.
Yeah. Well, I think we can sum it up that, reality is for people who
moderation and just,
No, I wasn't going to say anything.
It sounds like, that's the other thing too. I love like, the beer and the hard liquor, they show everybody like having a good time and there's the chicks with the bikinis and everybody's, you see, it's like, first off, it's like, I never saw a chick drink beer that looked like half of the girls in the ads, but and everybody's having, it's just this fantasy land. Please drink responsibly. Please drink responsibly. So, if you saw.
Yeah, I think in the end, reality is for people who can't handle drugs.
Ooh, look at you getting
one.
There you go. Okay, viewers, I won't do a viewer mail this time because we all know that, we all suck.
Have to upgrade that to viewer email.
Viewering?
Gotta upgrade that to viewer email.
Wrong.
Fresh in from the planet Uranus.
That's right. Viewer emails. You guys suck. You guys suck. You guys suck. Get to the point. What's the point? Stay on top.
Maybe we
Or
could
even a
introduce
topic.
a mandatory joke every episode.
Well, it's like me. I got a
show us
Charlie
just
Mary
one
Pickford
joke.
in. That's my thing.
That's right. So, all right. Well, I'll see you at a swinging drug party there, Rufus. Until then.
Bye-bye.